Hi everyone, I'm Callie B. Elwains with Bold and Visible, and I'm here today with Liz Duerholt. She is the Executive Director and founder of Redefine, which is an amazing social enterprise here in Calgary, helping young people come through experiences of trauma and make a life for themselves in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And Liz was also part of the Bold and Visible program and was a storyteller at the Bold and Visible monologues. Liz has an amazing story, so exciting, and I'm really happy to be here with you today, Liz.
And you too.
So I'd love you to share with everybody a little bit about Redefined and your vision.
Mm-hmm. Well, Redefined is a co-created trauma recovery program for young people who are navigating trauma. So we use that language because it's for young people who have come from really any walk of life and they're struggling to integrate into mainstream society in some way. And that really came to me through the realization that often the symptoms that we see being expressed by at-risk young people come from the same place. They come from the same pain internally. And so instead of addressing the symptoms of what they're going through, I wanted to go further back and embrace healing and recovery for them so that they could step into their truer selves. So we do that by creating a lot of experiences in connection and meaningful work. So we are a social enterprise, but we really intend to use work as a therapeutic element in what we do, not for the purpose necessarily of profit. So it's really about bringing them under that umbrella to experience connection in a way they probably never have before. Mm-hmm.
I think it's such a beautiful model because it allows them to have this platform for healing, but also they gain skills and they become part of the market economy and they do something meaningful, like you said. It's so beautiful. So tell us a little bit about your journey to get there. Within your story, how did this come about?
Well, my career did start in oil and gas, and I was there for about 15 years. And partway through that, finding purpose in that work was really hard. I might have been good at what I did, but I didn't belong there. And so there were several iterations of moving in and out of oil and gas as I experimented with where my life would take me, and that took me to culinary school and living in Africa, and it was really through those that I was experimenting with and learning what was my purpose and figuring out my value system, and it took me being in some of those places in Africa specifically to really realize that the longing that I had, or the emptiness that I felt, was really around a lack of belonging and connection, which I felt so deeply there and wasn't that able to bring home with me. So when I came back, it was more apparent to me that it was missing even than it had been before. And so in that time I had been volunteering with young people here, and was realizing that I didn't want to live 14,000 kilometers away. I wanted to do that here, and life unfolded in a way such that the young people, it became very apparent that that's where I would end up, is representing them and bringing forward the change in the world that they really wanted to see. And it was an accidental process, but I ended up really seeing how my experience of how therapeutic that connection and meaningful work was for me, that I could bring that as a transformational and healing platform for young people also experiencing trauma, and it just fit together.
This just comes right out of your own story and your own journey, which is so amazing. And it's really unique in the world. So how is that? I mean, there's not a lot of these kinds of things here. I mean, I've been supporting various agencies and programs as a volunteer in Calgary with youth who are either on the street or in trauma. But largely those programs are very structured, and they have case management systems and that kind of thing. And how is this different? I mean, how do you navigate this difference?
The biggest learning, I think, from them was just to realize that as I got to know them and see their experiences, that not having a mental health background and not having any experience in that industry gave me a real advantage in terms of seeing what they were going through, and I saw it so differently. So as opposed to seeing a young person who's been through numerous foster care systems and agencies and case management and seeing their struggle as mental illness or a weakness because you're doing it with addiction, what I saw was quite incredible strength. That they were coping in the exact way that I would cope if I had been in that same circumstance. So there was no weakness I saw there. And in the several years I worked with other agencies, there was just such a weakness mentality, like your brain isn't working, or you are dysregulated, you aren't coping with this well. And we were never meant to cope with that. So they were coping exactly how they were supposed to cope. And I would see just these horrific stories of young people, and then the solution would be, well, we'll get you back on your meds, and you will be regulated. And it's like, how are we addressing the core of the life experience and validating that's actually not okay, that life experience is more than your brain or nervous system should be able to handle. And how are we healing that so that you can move forward, and how are we recognizing the strength that comes from living that experience and transforming it into purpose?
Absolutely. That's amazing. So starting with the strength that they're cultivating from inside these experiences, and not medicalizing them or making them bad, but actually seeing that they're coping in exactly how they should probably be coping, and helping them move on to see themselves in a positive light, right? And start to engage and connect and be more safe. Amazing. So, with this in mind, I mean, you came to Bold and Visible. What brought you to the program to work with me?
I really saw the thing I want to do in the world and I want to carry forward in the world was bigger than me. And it brought me up against a lot of messaging that had happened, especially early on as I started, like, who are you? And, who are you to do this? And who are you to say this is right? And I had a lot of those beliefs that I carried. Who am I? Who am I to do this? Who am I to say this is right? Despite being surrounded by young people who are like, you're right. Right?
Despite the results you're getting.
I dimmed, I did all the things that you talk about. I dimmed, I hid, I avoided, I let them represent the program instead of me so that I didn't have to own it. And when it just became really apparent that it had to do the next thing, I knew that I wasn't ready for the next thing. So to hold the next thing. And I don't remember the quote specifically, but I was looking at something online one day and it hit me. This quote just came up that was, the size of your business is directly related to the growth journey or whatever the wording was, but of my own self. And I went, oh my goodness, like this is me. Like I'm holding this back. And that realization came in exact timing with you launching it and asking me to come, and I had asked for it, like, please tell me what I'm supposed to do that's next, because it really felt quite like I know this thing is there and I know it's me, but like what the heck, like how, where, I don't know what to do, and you can't see it. You can't even see sometimes. Like I could tell, but I didn't. You can
see the results or the pattern that you're in, or what you're not getting, but you can't see necessarily how to get out of it.
No. I could not see how to get out of it. So when the opportunity came, there was resistance to it, of course, and then there was just a kind of a surrendering and knowing that that's what was the right thing to do, and had absolutely no idea what that would mean or do. Or I think that I'm pretty new in this world and in this in this transformation piece of having coaches. Like I haven't had that before, and so what was really, really impactful to me was to realize what change is possible if you have someone who really, really, really gets it, which was you, and how I never experienced that level of change in anything in my life. And so then it was like, oh my goodness, like when you work with people who know and like more is possible.
Absolutely. And I think, that the special part of it is, when we work with each other as women, especially, the reason I know is because I've been through all of this, right? I have felt the potential in my own life and stepped into leadership, through whatever means, when I was in the corporate world as a CEO or in the bigger world of what I want to do, and yet knowing that I'm holding myself back somehow. And it's not everything around me, it's me holding myself back. What is it? And why are these patterns showing up? Why am I so uncomfortable? When really, I'm in a great spot, probably the best of my life, and I can feel the potential. But all these tensions, the dimming down, safety mechanisms, letting other people get out there and take the credit. I love giving credit. I think that's important. I'm a collaborator, but
Me too,
there's a different piece by not.
But it felt different. It feels different.
It does feel different because the truth is like this, and what you said about that quote is so true, right? You represent your business. It actually, and that's why I love your story, because you are the soul of your business. And so you have to be willing to have that authority, and you totally so do. I just love to see how I saw you just completely, you didn't so much become a different person to me, Liz. It was more like you just dropped the part of you that was holding back and limiting that real you. And it was like, I remember being in a rehearsal with you and the other women going, oh my God, there's Liz. She's huge. Like, you took up a lot of space and you have such a great voice and such a huge heart, but ability to powerfully communicate.
Thank you.
Right? Like, that's so much fun to see. But I think, what do you think about this piece of working together with the other women as well? So that, like, for me, I've had a lot of, mentors and coaches and incredible, that I'm so grateful to in my life. But one of the things that has up-leveled me the most is getting a community of women who are doing that difficult work together, willing to get vulnerable together.
It was, I don't think the breakthroughs would have happened if it hadn't been for all of us together. And it's interesting for me because, of course, I bring my young people together in this group and I see how powerful it is for them. But I had never experienced that same thing, and obviously I can't be in their group. So I see the importance with them of being able to come into a group and go, this is how I'm feeling, and someone else go, oh my goodness, this is how I'm feeling too. And I'd never had that, and I until this group of women in my life, I hadn't had people on the same path. So when you're trying to go through this personal growth stuff and you're coming up against your stuff or triggering your anxieties or even just playing a bigger game, like I didn't have that support network. And so, yeah, it was super validating, and now you have someone to actually talk to about what you're experiencing and what you're growing through. And for some of the people in my life, that kind of what I was going through was almost challenging to them. So I never had a place where I felt like I was normal, right? Where I was going through something that other people were experiencing too. And so to be in this group of women that are stepping into something different, and then we're all hitting the same kind of walls at the same time, and we're all
and it's not necessarily easy work, right?
No.
Because this work is very high level, and I mean that's why we really work
Yeah.
on making sure everyone's a fit for the program, because it's
Mm-hmm.
a high level of accountability and commitment to sticking with it. Because there's points, isn't there, where you may feel like things are unraveling a little bit in the nervous system,
Yes.
because we're literally wanting to let go and really step into another version of ourselves,
Yeah.
and not just in a mindset.
A heart set.
Like, have you, and I know there were points in the program where you probably felt like, or in your journey, but maybe just a little bit disorganized.
Very.
Yeah.
Very. Trying to think of when the first one was, but I know I talked to you about it. We were thinking we were just doing somatic work still. And I remember going into work and being able to have conversations with my young people I hadn't had, and like just really feeling kind of floaty. It was a very interesting, things started to just shift, and you'd see how relationships were even kind of rearranging themselves, and it was really, and it does feel really disorienting, because your familiar is leaving, is shedding.
And it's an embodied thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we use the word embodied a lot now. I hear it all the time. It's hard to describe, but really it's a reorganizing of the whole nervous system, the mind and the body, and where we're operating from. And it's hard to explain when you're in the pool what the water is.
Yes.
Right, but when it,
Yeah. But it was an ability to have. I was in a place with my program and with my young people where we come out of a space where there was just kind of a lot of stuff kind of happening for everyone, and of course they pick up on my stuff, and I was able to go in and have hard conversations from a place of really compassionate and be very grounded, and had conversations that were really like holding them to account, but in a way that they really respected, and it was a profound getting comfortable with being uncomfortable moment, right? Because it was really uncomfortable to have these conversations and have them be hard, but they were, because of this ability to have source that conversation from love, a place of something different. They thanked me for those conversations. So it was a really, hadn't had that before. Hadn't been able to go that deep with them before, and be so okay with it.
And stay grounded, you stay safe.
Yes.
And be really open with that. If you could describe in a nutshell what Bold and Visible is, what would you say?
That you have to experience it. There is no way my logical mind would have been able to process the change that was possible in that time. Because so much of it operates on a level of that I've never experienced before, right? To let go, to understand that there's trauma you can let go that you don't, your body knows, but your brain doesn't even. I don't think there's an experience that's quite similar in our culture at the moment, that you have to experience it. And if I had to explain it, it's just entirely transformational. Like it has changed my game in a way that I never would have. You put it into a process when you first see it, right? Oh, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna end up on stage, and I'm not sure how that's gonna happen, but okay.
And then there you are. Yeah. So the three parts, in a nutshell, the letting go of identifying and letting go of the old patterns, but it's not just a mindset thing. It's actually sourcing the patterns in our nervous system, reestablishing a relationship with where they came from, being kind to them, but also being able to let go and step into something new, and then awakening and activating the body. So a lot of the somatic work that we do,
which I struggled with, right? So I had no voice. Yeah. So even doing that work, just being able to source a sound in front of other people was terrifying. So just that, and then to story.
Yeah, and then the last part, once we've sort of created the space and the ability and the movement and the trust in ourselves, and we're starting to behave in a, naturally in a different way, but also by very much intention, then sourcing our story and telling our story. But that whole thing in itself is an amazing process, right?
It was, and I think for me, as I navigate still the nervous system kind of settling and then finding my next limitation and going after that, is this ability to stay curious about what it is, and also to see it quite differently. So instead of seeing when that challenge comes up and seeing it as an anxiety attack, to see that as information has been a really big difference for me. So it's like, this is happening, this is what's changed for me, this is what I'm now processing, so that I can be, I'm in such a different relationship with it than I was before, and I can see that information as, and it did 2 weeks ago get quite intense for me. So like I hit a pretty intense wall of integration, and to be able to, it was still intense, but to look at it in a different way and see it as a, like I need to take a break, and I need to give myself some time. And whereas before it would have been like, get this resolved, push this down, keep on.
Yeah, get rid of this
feeling,
as opposed to using it as almost as the breakdown or whatever's going on. It's almost exciting in some ways, because I'm shifting to something else, but the awareness of how to move through it.
And that did happen. So that happened, and it was pretty intense, and then to have a speaking engagement this week in front of 250 people, to walk on stage, and I didn't have nerves that whole time, like not the day before, not the loss of sleep like the previous one, nothing, like, and to go on and to be able to do that in front of that many people, and literally be standing in it, telling it, and being like, I am not afraid of this, was like, so it happened without the way that you would normally think it happened, where you go and study it and you do this thing, and like my body did this work.
Because it actually happened from the inside out.
It did.
As opposed to just going to learn how to speak somewhere at a conventional speaking thing. This is more, your truth is coming out, and now you're just standing in it. What I love about what you just said, your experience was, because you did step over a big threshold. I mean, you're a different person, and you were just amazing. By the way, Liz's story is amazing. And stepping over this threshold and sharing that with the world in the way you did, and the shift that brought, which is so much bigger than just your story, then the somatic system wants to go back to safety, right? What does this whole new world look like for me? Because you have a big game to play, and you have much more to lean into. The body will try to go back.
Yes.
Out of fear and anxiety, and yet then you moved even further forward onto another stage and sharing with more people, and because of that and finding actually your truth is, I am comfortable, I am a different person. If you believe that, that old story that was trying to suck you back,
yes,
which you didn't, you stayed with your process and you went onto that stage. Now what's possible? I mean, you're magnetizing people to you to see the amazing importance of what you're doing in this world.
And I would not have thought it was possible. Like at the beginning of it, I would have, the only way that I could understand this program in my own experience in life was Toastmasters, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it's like, so you think, well, that didn't work, but like, let's give this a go. And it's not. it is not the same.
Exactly. And now we have, we're building on this group of women who are here supporting each other, going deeper and wider. And we're now moving into, okay, what's the next? What's the vision? It's so much bigger. Can you hold a bigger space now?
Yes.
For like...
Oh, yeah, totally.
Redefined is a huge space, right? It's got a big impact on the world.
Well, and it's a huge space, and I think for the first time since I've started it, like I have work to do, but for the first time I feel like I can carry it, and I didn't before. And I know the next things I'm coming up against and I still struggle with. In terms of really owning that truth and feeling completely comfortable in it in the moment. I need to get more comfortable with it in the moment, but I feel like I can carry it, and I did not before.
It's a huge responsibility, and you have the strength to carry it. And by the way, as I said, anything that I can do, I'd love to provide support, volunteer support. Everybody, you should check out Redefine. So you're on all the social media networks, obviously. I know you're on Instagram, right?
And Facebook.
Yeah, amazing.
And it's spelled wrong.
Yeah, so tell everybody, like, what is it? How do you spell it?
All our handles are at Redefined, but it's REDEFIND, apostrophe D in the card, but on social media, Redefined Calgary. So all of our handles are the same and tied into that, and we're very active and very much visible in that way. So it would be great to just have everyone
following you and
follow it and check it out and see the possibility, because I would like them to go through this work the same as me.
And do you still have lunches at the...
No.
You're not doing that right now in the fall?
No, we're quite small, so we iterate and iterate and iterate as it serves the needs of our people the best. So sometimes we have a bunch of people that have been with us longer, and we can then hold more capacity to operate different things. And then right now we're in a transition phase of taking on a lot of new young people, and when that happens we have to change. And being quite small, we have to, one day we will be many and we can operate it all simultaneously, but right now we shift a lot back and forth depending on who's with us. So
amazing. Well, having been a young person myself who was living on the street for several years in the city, and I just remember I've always had this sense that I was a leader and I had capacity, but I had no skills, I had no education, I had nowhere to live, I had nowhere to go to eat. And I just know if there was something like a Redefined that I could channel in some, a place to support me, not only in my healing, but to show me the possibility, of doing meaningful work and getting some skills. And I can't imagine what my life would, how much quicker. I mean, it took me a long time to get to where.
And the reality is some do and so many don't. Right? And that was the thing for me, was some don't. They just don't get out. They can't.
That's true. I know from my experience and seeing so many of my friends not make it, and I'm so grateful. But the having someone to see you, to witness you, that's the thing, right?
Yeah. They should all have the chance to do it if they want to do it.
Yeah.
And leaving it to chance wasn't how I wanted it to be.
I'm so glad that you went to Africa, left the oil and gas industry, which is fine. I'm a proponent. I'm not against oil and gas. I think there's great out in Alberta, but I'm just saying, I'm
not either. But it was
it's your
this
calling.
was a purpose-driven thing.
Your calling,
it was a heart-driven thing, and there's zero chance I would have ever thought that I'd be working with at-risk young people, and that they would be 18 to 30. If you'd asked me that 10 years ago, no way. But
awesome.
It found me. It was great.
Beautiful. Thank you, Liz. Thank you so much. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Changing the world.
I can feel it. I can feel it. I can't quite see it yet, but I can feel it. Awesome.
Same.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.